Hey, Anthony, great to see you, man. How's it going?
No vacancy live. How are you,
Yeah.
my friend?
I'm doing pretty good. So I'm excited today, Anthony, because we're going to go a little bit back to December when you and I had the opportunity to take part in the Nevada Hotel and Lodging Association's Tech Conference, fourth year in a row. You and I have been participating in the Shark Pool competition. Heaven for me, I got to host the thing and you got to judge it. What fun was that?
That was fun. And our winner, I wonder if he actually, after you win, you said, what are you going to do? I'm going to go to Disney World. I wonder if he actually went to Disney World.
No, I think he wound up in a slot parlor and hasn't been seen since. Anyway, I want to thank everybody at the Nevada Hotel and Lodging Association's Tech Conference. I want to thank our friend Shannon McCallum from over at Resorts World for asking us to participate in this year after year. Really great being a part of this event. I want to thank Eric Robinson for helping out and Rich O'Brien over there. Today, we're going to feature the winner of that Shark Pool competition. And before we bring on Rich, I just want to set up a little bit. There were 7 great teams there. And I'll tell you, Anthony, I was blown away by all the different things that were shown in this group. We had Napper for short time stays. We had a Fixify, which helps you understand what types of technology companies are out there to best help you. We had Evolution, who helps with social media influencers, so you could really understand what's going on, and a couple of other great companies too. What did you take away from the event?
That every year, we've been involved 4 years. It feels like actually longer, but I love it. You know, I look forward to it every year. And,
every year.
It seems that the presentations are getting more succinct. They're getting graphically better. They seem to be more informed into what hotels actually do need and not what they think they need. So I think this year was, by and large, better than any year we've had.
Yeah, and the creativity that we saw was absolutely phenomenal. And the winner from this year is super creative. In fact, Anthony, when I think about how could we reinvent things for the hotel business, I never would have thought atmospheric water harvesting at the top of the list. But yet, here we are, the winner from WAVR Technologies, Rich Sloan, who has no title. He's letting his words speak for him today. How are you, Rich?
I'm doing great. And my title is winner.
Yeah, baby. Congratulations. So just set the stage for us before we start getting into all the questions. Just give us a few seconds on what this technology is, even though Anthony and I already know.
Are you by chance Star Wars fans? Either of you?
Yeah, man. I mean, I'm going to let you say it this time. I don't want to screw you like I did when we were at the event itself.
Okay. So science fiction in a galaxy, far, far away, a long time ago, had the Skywalkers living on a desert planet, and their whole economy was based on moisture harvesting.
Yep.
Science fiction sometimes is reality. And in this case, atmospheric water harvesting is what we are doing at our new company, WAVR Technologies. We're a spin out from UNLV, and we have next generation technology that allows us to actually capture vapor from the air and condense it into pure distilled water, even in the most arid climates like Las Vegas.
All right, so my first question for you is, will I have to go into Tashi Station to get power converters?
Yeah, you better have your I don't know what your chips are or whatever you have to trade in.
Yeah. All right, so this is an absolutely really cool technology. And the fact that you presented this in Las Vegas, where they're dealing with water issues every single day, is pretty interesting. Anthony, I think this is a pretty out-of-the-box transformative kind of idea.
Oh, it's transformative, no doubt. So there's 2 questions I have for you. One, in layman's terms, how does it work? And number 2, when you said it came out of UNLV, you can explain that either first or last, it doesn't matter. So explain to the audience what that means. So
beautiful. So, we have an extraordinary collegiate system where lots of federally funded research is taking place. All of these great universities, you can picture the Stanfords and the MITs, et cetera. And right here at UNLV in Las Vegas, we are also conducting that kind of research. And there is a big push in Las Vegas and at UNLV to do what's called translation of the research into actual commercial solutions.
All right, just to pause for 1 second. Interestingly enough, the event that we were at took place at Blackfire Innovation Studios, something that UNLV that promotes innovation. Rich, please continue. Sorry.
Yeah, there's a lot of emphasis around, having the incredible brain trust that is UNLV do more with the entire hospitality industry and the rest of the economy here in Las Vegas. So, to your point, there is this technology transfer that is happening. And so we exclusively licensed the technology from the university into a startup company. Mm-hmm. And in fact, UNLV has an ownership stake in this new venture. They're so excited about it. So they'll participate in the upside of all the value that's created here. Now, in terms of the business, as the vessel to commercialize this technology, we have a business plan, we have a team, we are in the process of undertaking our first commercial pilots, meaning the first installations with our first customers. And then as we progress out into 2026, we'll be going into full production and ramping up, taking orders. How it works, I just want to start, I mentioned Star Wars and all that science fiction, but the fact of the matter is the inspiration for this was not the Skywalkers. It was Australian tree frogs.
Oh.
Sorry to be so jarring.
No, because who has not been inspired by Australian tree frogs? We all
Glenn, you got to stick with me on this. You come on,
baby.
Come along for the ride.
Yeah.
So these brilliant researchers were looking at nature for inspiration, being very sensitive to the water woes that we experience, the scarcity of water that we experience in the arid Southwest. And it's really fascinating. An Australian tree frog doesn't have to dangerously leave the tree and go down to the stream to get water. And instead, they have this incredible mechanism where they're able to absorb water through their skin into their saltier body. The salty body is attracting the vapor from the humidity from the air. So they thought, how can we create a synthetic version of this? And in fact, they have created a material called a hydrogel that mimics the membrane of the skin on the frog.
That is so cool.
And we have a salty solution on the back side of this. And it's on the other side, it's exposed to the ambient air. And it's just based on what's called chemical potential. It is constantly attracting vapor from the air through the membrane into the salty solution. And then we simply boil that off to get distilled water. So we can make systems that do this at 10 gallons per day, teeny tiny little system, all the way up to 10,000 gallon per day jumbo systems. So we're going to have a whole product line. We'll provide water for things like landscape irrigation, your laundry facilities, your water features, your pools. It could be turf related, on and on, all kinds of applications. And every gallon of that water replaces a gallon of water sourced from the local municipal source. And in our case, in Las Vegas, Lake Mead is at 30% capacity. They've actually had to dig a deeper straw.
Oh my gosh.
Because the other straws are exposed and above.
Yeah.
So.
Wow. Anthony, you're muted.
But you look good.
At what point does this become cost effective? Will it take a year, 2 years, 5 years?
Yeah.
Does it depend on because I don't know. We didn't talk about price or how expensive it is. But the one thing, especially in the hotel industry, there's two things at play, right? One, it's a natural resource that needs to happen. So sometimes money is the second point, right? And I think because we need to have it, right? And then, but eventually, after the government says you need to source other areas, regardless of expense, at what point does it get to affordability?
I was talking with a group that purchased a public golf course, and they're turning it private here in Las Vegas. And of course, as part of that process, they're doing renovations to the course. They've had to talk to our local water authority, which, by the way, is one of the most respected water authorities in the world. We've dropped per capita water consumption by 30%.
Let me put a pause in that for people who don't know. They've actively done a campaign to get you to get rid of your lawns and put in natural things that belong there instead. Sorry, Rich, continue.
Exactly right. Yeah. You can fill in anytime. But he was bemoaning the reality that their water costs are expected to double right out of the gate on a per gallon basis. And so we're already starting to see what has been historically the cheapest commodity trending toward what will in the Southwest become the most expensive commodity. And so to answer your question, Anthony, we're somewhere around 3 cents per gallon, which is considerably more expensive than municipal right now. But if you look at the next 10 years, global demand for fresh water will outstrip supply by 40%.
Oh boy.
Now you tell me what's going to happen to the cost of water in the decade ahead. So we think that there will be a convergence between our cost and the traditional or conventional municipal cost. And that'll be not an inhibiting issue. In the early years, to your point, there are other motivations other than saving money. Yeah. And in the case of Las Vegas, it's saving our community. So, we have an existential threat here. And if you're operating tens of thousands of square feet of hospitality related facility, and you're consuming millions and millions and millions of gallons of water annually, to be responsible, you need to be thinking about ways that you can chip away at that.
Yeah.
Well, it's amazing. So, when you were in fourth grade and you sat at your desk and you said, I can't wait to be able to take water from the sky. Why did you dream that dream? Or when did you start dreaming that dream? Or what was your dream in fourth grade?
Yeah, it was interesting. So I'm a Las Vegas resident as of 2011. I have email exchanges with UNLV researchers dating back to those first few years when I arrived here. I just, as a citizen, was in shock at how brown the wasteland, on the geological map, it's called wasteland, how brown this region is. I'm originally a Michigan native. Right. Literally surrounded by the most vast freshwater resource, surface water resource on the planet. So it was like top of mind for me. As soon as I got here, I was like, oh, wow, this is the thing. And, Anthony, frankly, I'm a lifer as an entrepreneur. I'm the founder of something called Startup Nation. We've helped millions of people start and grow their own businesses. And I've run a seed stage fund and I've run tech companies. And so I'm all in as an entrepreneur, and I just want to do things that matter. I want to wake up at 2:30 in the morning like I did today and not feel bad about it, but feel lit up. So, working on the most significant challenge confronting our community here, it tends to really put some juice in your passion.
Yeah, and where other people are worried about it and thinking about it, you're doing something about it. Are you an engineer by trade?
I'm not. I'm an Asian history major.
Oh, so close.
It makes perfect sense.
It connects directly right through tree frog.
Yeah, I'll tell you. I grew up in Flint, Michigan. This is another water story. The Flint water situation.
Right? Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So lead in the water and the whole thing. So I grew up in Flint, Michigan, and in the 70s, it was very insular. I was deep in the Midwest. And I was watching unemployment lines as, I would drive along in the rear seat of my parents' car or whatever at all the automotive factories. And I became fascinated by Japan at that time because it was Japanese cars that were cleaning our clocks in the automotive industry. And that's actually what lit up my interest in Asian history. That was from a very fourth grade age.
That's fascinating. And to see that area of the world go from, the greatest industrial cities and area in the world to what happened. And to see that firsthand and to see it in real time with real circumstances, with real people on bread lines and food lines and unemployment lines must have been really, obviously so you were so impressed that you studied why, like from where.
Yeah, exactly.
If you mind me asking, I don't mean to keep going off on the tangent, but they call me Mr. Tangent.
I'm going to bring it back to water. I promise.
You will in a second. But what was the thing that you found the most fascinating in your studies of why they cleaned our clock?
I was drawn as I started to learn. First of all, University of Michigan has a really outstanding Asian history program, like renowned. So I was in a good spot at that school. And I increasingly became drawn into Eastern philosophy. And for me, I think that there's a lot of correlation between Eastern philosophy and the productivity and quality of product and attention to detail and just really focusing on, I guess, quality. So I think it's a cultural thing that really aided them and resulted in their ability to do something superior. On the flip side of that, and this is for all of us as people in the business world and the hospitality world, in contrast, the automotive industry in the US at that time was tired, fat, monopolistic in its thinking, lazy, just like a whole slew of dislocated from the realities of, for example, the I think it was 1973 when the first gas cost spikes, price increases happened. So, it was the industry was asleep versus the Japanese industry, and they seized the day.
And just so everyone knows, he was talking about the business, not the people.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, Rich, I love that you're in Las Vegas with this product because it's so symbolic of it. It's also the perfect proving ground for it. Do you envision a day where some of the major resorts really start to get behind it as they have with solar and other environmental programs?
Yeah, you bring up solar. I'll just share with you that we're likely going to intersect with solar because
I'm thinking that. Yeah.
This does require power in order to essentially heat or distill the water. So solar is a very viable source of power in addition to conventional grid power, and then also process-related heat. So, for example, we're talking with a major regional operator. They have operations in 10 states, I think 28 facilities. They have a centralized laundry here in Las Vegas, and it's a perfect place for us to replace water, A, and B, use the heat from the dryers to essentially create a lot of leverage or subsidy of power to heat up the water.
Which is great. Hotel Marcel in Connecticut does just that. It's a great program. Anthony, sorry.
To put in perspective, think about one of the largest hotel businesses in the world is in Vegas. Think about just in one day in pounds, how many towel sheets are cleaned and how much water and heat is used to do that. It would literally, if you put a week's worth of laundry in a pile, it would be, you can ski off of it.
Yeah.
So right there, that water savings would be immense.
Yeah, we're looking at analysis. So on the UNLV campus itself, I know it's not a hospitality property, but it is representative. On the UNLV campus, we plan to replace 20 million gallons annually of just landscape irrigation water.
Wow!
So you start going down a list of laundry, landscape, evaporation off of your water features or pools. We can bring back poolside misters, which has been a irresponsible use of water. There are literally, we view it as billions of gallons of water that we can incrementally provide to the system.
Right. But if it's done well, you'll never run out of it.
Well, now let's talk about that, because one of the most common questions I get, I'm shocked you guys haven't asked me this yet, is what's going to happen when you pull all the water out of the atmosphere?
I don't think that's how nature. I don't think that's how nature works. I don't think. I don't think you could produce enough to make up for all the evaporation from the oceans. But give it a shot.
You're right on. You're farther ahead.
I went to Brooklyn schools and I knew that. Okay.
Okay. So you guys are talking about the water cycle.
Yes.
Every 9 days on the planet, water that was in the air 9 days ago is now back down on the surface, and new water has evaporated up into the atmosphere. So this is this constantly refreshing cycle.
I think we learned that in fourth grade, didn't we?
Yeah, I still know the graphic of the lines going in the circle.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So if we were to just look at the county where Las Vegas is located, which is called Clark County, and we were to look up the column in the atmosphere, there is many multiples of water available in that column of air than is the daily usage in Las Vegas. I'm talking like with lots of zeros behind it, multiples.
Right.
So there is a vast reservoir that we are tapping into. And like you alluded to, Glenn, we're not going to get anywhere near exhausting that. And in fact, this is very interesting. Arguably, that water vapor is the most egregious greenhouse gas. It is the most heat retaining.
Right.
And we as humans, as we run those sprinklers over there, or that cooling tower at the back of your facility over there, we're emitting more vapor into the atmosphere than is naturally occurring. So this is called anthropogenic vapor. So we will essentially be recapturing a lot of what man is putting up there.
Just those misters alone, that's exactly what I'm kind of thinking. But just like just like the Bellagio having the lake out front, all that water, and that's happening everywhere. Anthony, I know you definitely had something to say.
I was just going to say, talking about that, the hotels in Vegas, specifically, I think MGM, what do they do with their water? Because I know they don't take their water from Lake Mead. What do they do?
Yeah, they have. So most of the properties on the Strip have a unique resource. It's groundwater there. So I forget what the percentage is, but they might get something like 85% of their water from essentially a dedicated resource. And my compliments to the hotels along the Strip. They're focused on sustainability. They have dedicated ESG teams. I've met with the leadership in this regard at MGM and Wynn. But the fact of the matter is, when you have a big lake out in front of Bellagio and, you're putting up the fountains up into the air, it's just constant evaporation. And so we can do wonders, I think, to help recapture that. Or over at Shark Reef, we can make sure that the evaporation associated with that is recaptured, et cetera.
And it's great that they're focused on it. But if you think about it, it's like focusing on air. If you don't focus on it, you're going to die. You have to focus on it, because if it becomes a real threat to them, they have no business.
Yeah, this is the way to look at this as an operator is I want to do the right thing so that my customers, my stakeholders, investors are viewing me as a responsible player. I obviously want to meet all of my regulatory mandates and requirements for my region. So if I'm going to build a new facility, what is my very responsible water management plan? But then it's just about like risk mitigation and operational resilience. You have to make sure that you've got decades of water available when you put in $1 billion new facility.
It's interesting because, as a consumer, you go to Vegas, you take your shower, you use your water, you never think about it. You never think it's going to run out. And just like in most things in the world, like all of a sudden there's an emergency and there's a guy like you somewhere in business that is ready to solve that emergency that no one's thinking about. right? That you're like 10 years ahead of us, because when we get there, we're going to turn to you and go, what do we do?
Yeah.
Yeah. Everyone is actually in the same box out here. Everyone is in the same box in terms of thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
We're the ones who are out of the box with a solution.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the game changer. This is going to be a game changer.
Yeah, it certainly is. And I think just Vegas alone, just like UAE, I could picture, Dubai and Arab Emirates and all that, all that kind of Saudi Arabia getting in on this. And that's just those locations. Can you imagine once everybody else is thinking about this, because water is so precious? Rich, how can we learn more about you guys at this point?
WAVR is the company, so WAVR, WAVRtechnologies.com. And I am a maniac on LinkedIn, so just look for Rich Sloan or follow WAVR Technologies. Please follow WAVR Technologies because we are constantly posting new updates about the technology.
Awesome.
Well, thank you.
Well, we really appreciate you being here. Anthony, that was really.
I love how you just zapped them out. You know what we should do?
You got to keep things moving along. People's attention.
You know what we should do is maybe we should have a tradition as the first week of every new year.
Yeah,
God willing, that we're here. He comes back on and updates us.
That sounds like a really good idea. So Rich is still backstage, so he heard it, and I said another new tradition. If you're not subscribing to us, this would be a great time to go ahead and do that. Make sure you follow us wherever you get your socials. Facebook, LinkedIn is where, I live and breathe over there. I don't know if I'm a maniac like Rich, but, I'm there. I'm having a good time. NoVacancyNews.com. And, of course, follow Anthony on Facebook and LinkedIn as well. Thanks, everybody, for being here. I don't know, but after that show, I'm kind of thirsty. But remember, everybody, got one life, so blaze on and
be kind to yourself.
See y'all later.